In the spring of 1974, Central Washington State University seemed like any other college campus. Until one night, when an 18-year-old freshman simply vanished into thin air. What began as a missing persons case would eventually expose one of America's most notorious serial killers and reveal a pattern of deception so calculated it would forever change how we think about the face of evil. In the next few minutes, we'll uncover the chilling details of Susan Rancourt's disappearance, trace the web of similar cases that followed, and reveal the dark truth that lay hidden on Taylor Mountain. It was April 17, 1974, when Susan Elaine Rancourt, a straight-A freshman biology student, left her dorm at Central Washington State University to attend a meeting for living group advisors on the lower campus. The meeting, scheduled for 9 p.m., was about a potential job. Like many college students, Susan was building her future, one careful step at a time. She had even put her laundry in the washing machine before heading out, a simple detail that would later haunt her father as evidence of her methodical nature. She was last seen around 10:30 p.m., walking across the college lawns, wearing a bright yellow fingertip-length ski jacket, grey corduroy slacks, a yellow short-sleeve sweater, and brown hush puppy shoes. A witness, Barbara Blair, would later recall seeing a young woman in that distinctive bright yellow coat exiting Munson Hall, one of the last glimpses of Susan before she vanished into the darkness. By 3 a.m., her roommate Diana Pitt of Yakima, growing increasingly concerned, made the call that would launch a massive search operation. "I got worried she wasn't back," Pitt would later tell investigators, words that would echo through the investigation as the first ripples of a tragedy about to unfold. But Susan Rancourt was already gone. What investigators didn't know then was that Susan's disappearance was just one piece of a much larger and far more sinister puzzle unfolding across the Pacific Northwest. On the very night Susan disappeared, multiple witnesses reported seeing a man on crutches approaching young women, asking for help with his books. Each encounter a rehearsal, a test, looking for the perfect victim. Jane Curtis, another sorority girl, encountered him around 7 p.m. She too noticed the missing passenger seat. She too felt something wasn't right. She too ran. When he pressed her a second time to get into his car, her instinct screamed danger. The son of an Oregon district attorney visiting the campus that night saw a suspicious man with his arm in a sling standing in front of Bartow Hall around 8:30 p.m. Another piece of the puzzle, another witness to evil. Catherine Clara D'Olivo, age 21, was approached around 10 p.m. by a man asking for help. He led her to a tan-coloured Volkswagen Beetle, dropped his keys, asked her to retrieve them. A test, a trap that she unknowingly avoided. She picked them up, handed them back and walked away, never knowing that her simple decision to remain standing may have saved her life. She would be one of the last people to see Susan Rancourt alive. The search for Susan was extensive, desperate. 150 volunteers walked across Ellensburg, checking the college, abandoned buildings, sewers covering a 2-mile radius of the city, hope fading with each passing hour, each empty building, each dead end. Her father, Dale Rancourt, took time away from his job with the Anchorage telephone utility, helped with the search, offered a $1,000 reward. A father's desperate attempt to bring his daughter home. "We believe Susan was abducted," he said, his voice heavy with certainty, "because she was always a very logical person, very predictable. If it was one of my other children, I'd say just stand by, they'll be back in 2 or 3 days, but not Susan, she was always very careful." Those words would prove prophetic as the investigation took an even darker turn. The investigation took a darker turn when more women began to disappear, each case adding to a growing pattern of terror. Kathleen Parks from Oregon State University vanished in May. Brenda Ball, last seen leaving the Flame Tavern in Burien after talking with a man with his arm in a sling. Georgian Hawkins vanishing from an alley behind her sorority house. Like ghosts, they seemed to simply disappear. Then, on July 14, 1974, 2 women disappeared on the same day from Lake Sammamish State Park, a bold move that would finally give investigators a name. Janice Ott and Denise Nasland both approached by a young man who introduced himself as Ted. Among hundreds of summer revelers, he chose his victims carefully, methodically, leaving only his first name behind. That name would soon become infamous, a name that would haunt America for generations to come. Leads poured in from across the globe, from Sitka, Alaska to Boynton Beach, Florida, even Australia. But Susan remained missing, her case growing colder with each passing day. But the true horror wouldn't be discovered until March 1975, when two forestry students walking through a swampy wooded area on Taylor Mountain made a discovery that would break the case wide open. 4 skulls and other bone fragments were unearthed at the site, located east of Seattle, just 10 miles from where the skulls of Ott and Nasland were found. A killing field hidden in plain sight. Among them was the skull of Susan Rancourt. The identification was confirmed through dental x-rays, sent special delivery to her dentist in Alaska, transforming the case, in the words of Police Chief Al Pickles, from a missing person to a homicide. The story wouldn't find its final chapter until years later, when the man responsible, Ted Bundy, would confess in the final hours before his execution to the murder of Susan Rancourt. He revealed his methodology, a calculated scheme of deception. Using a fake plaster cast, stolen from his previous employment with a medical supply company, he would appear helpless, carrying too many books, preying on the kindness of young women. The crowbar hidden under the wheel arch of his car, the missing passenger seat designed to force victims to bend down. Everything calculated, planned, precise. With the unconscious Susan in his Volkswagen, Bundy drove her towards Taylor Mountain, where her skull would later be found. It's possible, investigators noted, that her body was buried elsewhere, as Bundy confessed to decapitating some of his victims, taking their heads home with him. A detail too horrific to contemplate. Susan Rancourt, just 18 years old with a promising future ahead, became one of his earliest victims. Her story, a tragic testament to the darkness that can lurk behind a friendly face. The witness who saw a suspicious man smoking might have seen Bundy waiting, might have seen his Volkswagen Bug carrying an unconscious Susan on that final journey to Taylor Mountain. These details, these moments frozen in time, would haunt investigators for years to come. For his crimes, Ted Bundy would meet his end in Florida's electric chair, known as Old Sparky. But the legacy of his victims, the lives he cut short, the futures he stole, continue to remind us that evil sometimes wears a friendly face, that monsters don't always look like monsters, and that the most dangerous predators are often the ones who appear the most normal. Susan Rancourt's story is more than just a cautionary tale. It's a reminder that in a world of Ted Bundys, intuition can be our strongest defense. That sometimes the simple act of running away can be the bravest thing we do. What would you do if approached by someone asking for help like Ted Bundy did? Would your intuition warn you like it warned those who survived? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more stories of justice, survival, and the pursuit of truth.